So we're here today talking with Rajnar Vajra, a guitar teacher on FindaGuitarTeacher.com. Rajnar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's an honor for me.
Absolutely. So can you tell us first a little bit about where you're located? What state and what city are you in?
I'm in Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and I'm in Amherst,
Understood.
which
And
is northwestern Massachusetts.
got it. And what's the guitar teaching climate like there? Do you find a lot of people want to learn to play guitar where you're located?
There have been waves of people really interested. I teach more
Hmm.
than guitar. I also teach bass and keyboard
Right.
and recording and vocals and songwriting.
Uh-huh.
And I've had years where I had more bass students or keyboard students than guitar students, but in general, more guitar students.
Interesting. Makes sense. And do you find that you teach more adults or children, or is it a pretty even mix?
It, Not very young children.
Okay.
But yes, I have taught anywhere from junior high school to people that are retired,
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
right across the board in terms of the age groups.
Yes. And what kind of styles of music do you find that students are most interested in?
In general, I think they're more interested in blues and rock than anything else. I've
Sure.
had students that are interested in heavy metal, which I also teach,
Yes.
and neoclassical. And
Understood.
I'd say that's pretty much what I find the greatest amount of interest in.
And what other styles do you offer in terms of what you teach?
Well, there's different kinds of styles that were kind of old-fashioned droning, where you keep bass lines going while you play.
Hmm.
I teach a lot of the kind of fancier sweep picking and some of
Okay.
the stuff with two-handed playing.
Yes.
And what I like about guitar um, it, and music in general is that you can never stop, you can never reach the end of what there is to know.
Yes.
And one of the things that's really helpful is I'm never satisfied with my own playing
Hmm.
or my own knowledge, and I keep kind of exploring new areas.
That's great. That's a great way to approach it. And can you tell us a little bit about your overall approach to teaching? What do you like to focus on with any particular student?
It depends on the student,
Hmm.
but there's a couple of general rules. The first one is to deal with the basic biomechanics.
Hmm.
For example, where you play in relationship to the fret is crucial because if you're back too far from the fret, you have to press much harder. It takes very little effort if you're in the exact right place. And
Hmm.
the other thing is to play at the fret level, not the fingerboard level.
I see.
Many people will try to just push it down to the fingerboard. That's not really relevant to what's producing the sound. And if you can't do it totally evenly, you'll just get a guitar that's out of tune. You can hear
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
big
Sure.
there. Likewise, with the right hand, depending on whether you're finger picking or holding a pick. Right now, I'm holding a quartz pick.
Yes.
Um, a lot of people will have a tendency to have an arc when they're doing single string work.
Hmm.
The problem with an arc is there's some people that have learned to do it very well, and they play great, but that's making life a lot harder because the arc, you have to be exactly at the bottom of the arc when you're intersecting the string.
Yes.
If you can play straight across, all of a sudden it's much more easy to contact the string.
Makes sense. These little details make all the difference.
Then it depends.
Sure.
Oftentimes, even if someone is interested in speed metal or something,
Hmm.
we'll start with blues and some of
Sure.
the basic information in blues and some of the coordination that's required for kind of advanced blues playing will be very useful for all sorts of kinds of playing. And a lot of music is modular.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
you can do some part that you play, you can just plug into anything,
Yes.
or the techniques will be applicable.
Of course. Of course. And can you tell us a little bit about your fees and your scheduling options for your students?
Sure. I mean, I teach. It depends on the student.
Hmm.
I do give Skype lessons,
Yes.
but I don't like giving them too late at night. So I kind of 7:30 is sort of my cutoff.
Understood.
Um, I'm also a writer, so I take some time for science fiction and fantasy writing.
I see.
And but otherwise, I'm pretty flexible.
Uh-huh. Got it. And do you, so
And
do you work?
fees,
Yeah, please go ahead.
It's basically 35 for half an hour, 45 for 45 minutes, and 60 for an hour.
I see. And do you have a minimum amount that you work with anybody like per week, or how do you like to set that up?
I think for learning purposes,
Hmm.
uh, a once a week lesson works best.
Yes,
You know,
understood.
okay.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit more, Rajnar, about your background?
Um, I was in a rock band for 12 years
Yes.
after 10 years of playing classical piano,
Hmm.
and then in several other kinds of groups. I worked with the University of Massachusetts in the Performing Arts Division as a blues and rock instructor in the extension services. I've taught it in high schools. I've been teaching for a long time,
Yes. Yes. I get the
and people can always Google me if
yes.
they want to find out more of my writing career.
Understood. And can you tell us a little bit about your equipment? I notice you have a what looks like a Fender Stratocaster there. Can you tell us a little bit about the equipment you like to use?
I could. I
Please.
have a number of guitars for different
Hmm.
purposes. This is my main axe these days. This is an
Hmm.
Eric Johnson Strat,
Okay.
just, but it's the zucchini version rather than the Fender Custom Shop version. But it's really,
Got it.
I just always wanted this sound.
Yes.
For keyboard, I have several keyboards here. My main instrument is I just like the sound of Roland, so I have a Roland Phantom.
Hmm.
It's the G8
Yes.
weight keyboard.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I have a bass, of course, a bass amp. Right now, this sound that you're hearing, I'm playing through a line 6. And
That's one we can see in the background there,
this is
right
the
next to
Veta
it.
2.
Hmm.
And
Uh-huh.
it's a it's an amp that allows you to have two separate amps,
Yes.
and in each side if you choose, and they're modeling amps.
Wow.
And it didn't sell that well because it's one of the more complex pieces of equipment that anyone's ever produced, and I think
Mm.
it's just too difficult for most people to kind of program themselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's one of the things I love doing is programming sounds. And my
Yes.
keyboard is, got all sorts of my sounds.
Yes.
And here's a rule: the better the equipment is, the worse the studio patches are.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I've been really,
Sounds like you've had a lot of experience with it.
I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different
Sure.
programming problems.
Yeah, sure. And do you offer your students guidance about purchasing their own equipment?
I do,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And maybe you could give us an example of some of your own playing. You've played a few things, but if you could give us a little taste of maybe a song or something you like to show your students.
I can do all sorts of things.
Sure.
Let's just illustrate kind of a couple of simple principles.
Sounds
First of
good.
all, just to start with, let's say we're doing Crossroad Blues,
Okay.
and we're playing a simple single string line. Now, a lot of people, when they approach that, would play it like this. But it's actually the little details, having the little changes in dynamics.
Hmm.
Those little
Hmm.
details with the variations is what keeps the mind focused on it.
Yes.
And there's one thing about guitar that's so nice is that there's all these possibilities inherent in it,
Yes.
and you can always think of new possibilities.
That's great.
A couple more things. Let's say
Sure.
taking a simple shuffle. We
Yes.
start off. Now, let's expand it with a bass line.
Uh-huh.
Now, a lot of people will be satisfied there. Not us. Oh
Yeah.
no. Let's start expanding that.
Sure.
Now, here's what it comes really, it's really useful to be playing more than one instrument. Keyboard has certain things that are very commonly done, like in boogie
Mhm.
woogie, things like
Yeah.
that. They can be applied to guitar. And you can get, for example, that dissonance,
Uh-huh.
which can be resolved in all sorts of interesting ways. Or perhaps
Nice.
take that and add it to what we were just doing.
Cool.
And little by little, you build up something that's really interesting.
That really gives us a good sense of the kind of stuff that you do. That's great, Rajnar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's really cool. Well, listen, thank you again for joining us. It's been great to hear about your teaching, and we're looking forward to seeing you on Find a Guitar Teacher in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much.